Hello everyone and welcome back to the quantum optics series. In today's session, we are diving deeper into the quantum description of atoms and their interaction with light. We'll start by exploring the Hamiltonian of the atom, which gives us a complete picture of the energy in atomic systems. From there, we will delve into the concepts of the atomic dipole moment, a key quantity that describes how atoms interact with external electromagnetic fields. These ideas are central to understanding how light and matter interact at the quantum level with and set the stage for more advanced topics in quantum optics. So let's start with the simpler version of the atom, that is the two-level atom, and the electron is oscillating between these two energy levels. The cat 1 is showing the ground state, and the cat 2 is showing the excited state. So it could be practically achieved by imposing an external electromagnetic field with a suitable frequency that matches with the frequency difference between these two energy levels. So we could make use of the stationary Schrödinger equation and could write the eigenvalue problem as this in equation 1. So we have a Hamiltonian of the atom that acting on their respective cat vectors and giving us the eigenvalues as these are the energies of these respective uh, eigenstates or energy levels. So our goal is to find this kind of Hamiltonian that gives us that kind of results. So we choose the basis of the Hilbert space describing the uh, uh, two-level atom or two-level system, and these basis follows the orthonormal condition and the completeness relation of the basis given in equation 2. So next is to find the energies of these energy levels, that is the energies of the ground states and the excited states. So energy is usually defined as from any kind of reference level. So we took the reference level as the average of these energies, and if we give the name is we give it a name as E naught. So energy of ground state is written as this, and energy of ground state is written as this E naught plus 1 over 2 h cut omega naught. So we could also take the energy reference energy level to be 0. So energy becomes as in equation 4, as ground state has energy minus 1 over 2 h cut omega naught, and excited state has energy 1 over 2 h cut omega naught. So these are just the expectation value of the Hamiltonian with respective eigenstates as given in equation 5. So our goal is to find this kind of Hamiltonian that gives the results as given in equation 5. So we could infer from equation 5 that there should be a population difference operator that is given in equation 6, and we could define the Hamiltonian in terms of this population difference operator as given in equation 7. So uh, this gives the results as given in equation 5 exactly, and we have successfully defined our desired Hamiltonian of the atom. So this is given in the form of the uh, population difference operator as in the complete form of the Hamiltonian is h cut omega naught, and Hc is the difference operator, and h cut omega naught is the energy difference between these two energy levels. So we know that when the electron absorbs the photon, it jumps to high energy states, and when it uh, drops down to the lower energy state, it emits the photon. So this could be done, could be achieved by exposing the atom with external field, and it usually happens naturally in the phenomena called spontaneous emission. So the jumping up and jumping down could be defined as the could be defined in terms of the spin operators, as when the electron changes its orbital, the spins of the electrons also change, and this is due to the interaction with the external electromagnetic field. So our spin up and spin down operators have this form as given in equation 8, as when spin up operator acts on the lower energy state, it transform it to the high energy state, and when spin down operator uh, acts on the high energy state, it transform it to the lower energy states. So as we have the constraint of the two energy level system. So when spin up operator acts on the high energy state, it gives us the zero, as there is no energy state higher than the cat 2. Similarly, when spin down acts on the ground state, it gives us the zero result, as there is no energy state below that ground state. So we could infer that the spin up and spin down operator should have that projection operator form given in equation 9. So there are some properties of these spin down and spin up operators. So their squares are zero, and their commutator gives us the population difference operator as given in equation 11. And their anti-commutator follows the completeness relation of the basis. So we could notice in equation 13 that they are not Hermitian, as they are not physical observable, so as they do not give the real eigenvalues. So we could define two Hermitian operators, Sx and Sy, the spin operators in terms of these spin up and spin down operators, and in total, we have three spin operators as Sx and Sy, Sc, as they could be interpreted as they give the spin along the three respective axes. So we have three observables, Sx, Sy, and Sc, and they are just the spin operators. So they follow the commutation relation as given in equation 15, as they follow the cyclic permutation when they are in the order of x, y, z, or y, z, x, and z, x, y. They gives us commutation relation in generally in that form, as the Levi-Civita symbol would be positive 1. So when the permutation is not cyclic, so the Levi-Civita symbol will become -1. So this is shown in equation 5, and it generally holds in the case of the spin operators. So these operators could be written in the matrix form, as we could define the cat1 and cat2 in the column vector form, and this could be taken as the computational basis that we usually defined in the quantum information. So using these forms in equation 14, we could write the spin operators in the matrices form, and these are just the Pauli matrices with a factor of half. So these are just defining the Pauli matrices that we usually encounter in our introductory quantum mechanics course. So the next concept is atomic dipole moment, and that is very important because the atom field interaction is usually changes the dipole moment of the electron or the atom. So our goal is to define the dipole moment in terms of the spin up and spin down operators. So we could use our completeness relation as it is equal to unity. So we sandwich the dipole moment of the atom in between these two unities, and we open up the unities in the form of the outer products of these spaces, and we multiply the respective terms with each other one by one. So we could see that we have the sandwich terms, like uh, the first one as cat1 cat1 and Uh, uh, the cats and the bras are sandwiching the dipole moment. So these are just the expectation values, and these are usually defined as the dipole matrix elements. So the dipole matrix element mu 11 is describing as the dipole moment of the electron in the 11 state or in the ground state. So these usually hold as non-zero when the atom has permanent dipole moment. And there are some transitional terms as mu 12 and mu 21, and these are given as the as the transition dipole moments when the electron jumps back from the higher state to ground state, or jumps back or jumps to the higher state from the ground state. This is due to the dipole moment when it this is due to the induced dipole moment when it arises due to the change in dipole moment of the overall atom as the transition changes the overall size of the atom. So we could write the equation 19 in terms of the spin up and spin down operators. So this is given in that form. So we usually take the atom that has no permanent dipole moment, so only the middle two terms with mu 12 and mu 21 survives. So this equation 20 is quite important, as it usually tells us that how the atom interacts with the electric field. So this will we see that how it plays a crucial role in our overall picture of the Hamiltonian of the atom. So to wrap up today's session, we have explored two foundational concepts in quantum optics: the Hamiltonian of the atom, which provides a complete description of the energy dynamics in atomic systems; the atomic dipole moment, a crucial quantity that captures how atom uh, interacts with external electromagnetic fields. So these concepts are vital for understanding the intricate interplay between light and matter at the quantum level. They also serve as building blocks for more advanced topics like light matter coupling, and quantum transitions. So thank you for joining this lecture. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more quantum insights. See you next time. Stay curious and stay learning.